Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now first off, I'd like to apologise for some background noise. There's a wind blower over there, a leaf blower. There's planes taking off over there. It's also raining. It's a pretty miserable day for filming, but I wanted to show you around this. It's probably going to be 2022's, well, it's going to be BMW's most important car of 2022. It's the BMW iX SUV. It's BMW's first bespoke electric SUV. I'm going to give you a proper walk around tour of it, take it for a little bit of a drive and tell you everything you need to know about it. And again, apologies if this video is not up to the usual standards I have on my YouTube channel, but I'm just trying to give you a first look at this very important car. Before we dive in though, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions about the car, do drop them below. Right then, let's hop into it. But before we actually get inside and drive the car, let's talk about the exterior design. Now, the iX is based on the iVision concept, which was revealed at the Paris Motor Show in 2018. I remember it well, and that car was very bold and interesting to look at. BMW very much toned down the design of that concept into this, the iX. Why is there no number after the X? Well, BMW sees this as their flagship electric product for the time being. And the design, well, let me know what you think. I mean, I'm not that taken with it, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm sure time will tell. I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of these on the road, and the design will, well, we'll get used to it, won't we? Like with everything, really. Let's talk about this grille, because this is easily the most controversial aspect of this car. It's not really a grille in the traditional format because of course it's an electric car, it doesn't need one, but it is completely flat, but it's transparent, and it hides all of the driver assistance systems there. We've got these slim LED headlights. You can spec them with laser lights should you wish. We've got these interesting design to the wheel arch, but the whole design is very smooth, isn't it? These got these sort of not even flush door handles, they're like little letterboxes, aren't they? Very smooth design, not helped in this car because it's black, but you can go for lots of interesting colours with contrasting roof as well. Very, very slim rear lights, I particularly like those actually. Now, for the time being, there are just two versions of the iX on sale, the 40 and the 50. They're both all-wheel drive. The 40 comes with a 322 brake horsepower motor with twin motors and a 77 kilowatt-hour battery, whereas the 50 comes with a 105 kilowatt-hour battery, and it has 516 brake horsepower from its twin electric motors. The 40 has 150 kilowatts of rapid charging capabilities, whereas the 50, that goes up to 195, and it means a 10 to 80% top up in one of these takes around 1 hour or 17 hours for the top spec 50. But in terms of range, well, about 250 odd for the 40 and 380 miles for the 50. This is the 50 model. I'm going to be taking it out on the road very shortly, but let's just, while we're around here, let's just talk about the boot space. Now you get around 500 litres of space, which means it's a bit smaller than the Audi e-tron, which is a bit surprising, isn't it? But it's still a fairly useful space, nice and square. This is very much a throwback to the Vauxhall Insignia estate in my mind. It's because the rear lights are actually on the tailgate. BMW have maximised the width of the tailgate to add to that wraparound feeling, and it means that when the tailgate is open you can't see the lights, so these double up as the lights. What's under here? A bit of underfloor storage for your charging cables, and there's a few sort of hooks here. We've got a 12-volt socket there as well, and you can fold the rear seats down as well, which is, there we are, look at that, nice and simple. Okay, right, let's just hop into the back and see what we've got there. These are very much like little letterboxes, aren't they? These handles, very nifty. And then that is the space in the back. Now there is plenty of space back here, more than enough room for 3 adults. Because of this car's, well, it's based on the BMW's CLAR platform, C-L-A-R, first debuted with the 7 Series, so it's a rear-wheel drive platform, but BMW have modified it for this all-electric iX, and they've been able to give this car a completely flat floor, which is great for 3 passengers. It means people aren't squabbling for footroom. The only problem with it is it is pretty high off the ground, so when people are sitting, and I've tried this myself, your knees tend to sort of sit at a weird kind of angle, and it means it's a little bit uncomfortable for a long journey, but that's just a small quibble because, like I say, the space back here is great. We've got air conditioning back here, just as you'd expect, and this is quite a nifty feature. 2 little charging ports here, which is for your devices. So there's a little socket there, so you can have like an iPad cradle there, so you can watch your iPad and watch movies instead of having a traditional TV screen. The doors are neatly designed. We've got a Bowers & Wilkins stereo in this particular car, but that is the electronic release button. Probably easy if I pull out and show you on this door. So yeah, we've got an electronic release button there, but probably if, for instance, if the electronic system fails, there is a release handle down there as well. Good sized door bins. We've got an armrest with 2 cup holders, which is quite nice. And then this is quite a nifty little feature. So the ISOFIX points, you can easily access them by pulling that up, and they sort of roll up to reveal them. You can fold the back seats down from here as well. You don't have to go into the boot, so you just tug on that and down they come. And the same on the other side, obviously. And in total, there's over 1,700 litres of space with the rear seats folded. Right then, let's hop into the front. Before we get into the front, just want to mention the doors are frameless, which is quite nice. And then BMW is really keen to show off the construction of this car. So much like in the BMW i3, this carbon construction is really on show. I mean, it's not the kind of thing you'd expect to see in a premium BMW SUV, but this is a new generation of BMW cars, very much showcasing the future, and BMW are keen to show off the very lightweight construction of this car. Right then, let's hop in and let's just start it up. So let's just press the start button. You get this little tune. Very sci-fi, isn't it? Now this is a very new design language on show here. Very different from other BMWs in the range, like the 3 Series and the 5 Series and the X5. This is a new wave of BMW interiors. Big focus on recycled materials in here. We've got the full leather option, but you can go for the polyester material seats should you wish. But the interior, like so often these days, is totally dominated by this screen. Now it neatly sort of curves round and it incorporates the driving info, the dials, etc., and the infotainment system. The infotainment system itself is BMW's latest 8th generation of iDrive. BMW say it's a lot easier to use this time round. There's also, including in the new features, there's separate climate control as well, so you can see that here, so you don't have to dive into the touchscreen to control it, because there are no physical buttons to use like in the 3 Series and the 5 Series, for example. In the centre, again, that platform, electric car platform, is on show here because we've got a flat floor here with a big centre console. There's a place here to store your phone with some charging points. We've got a 12-volt socket. I've got a nice bottle of water sitting in the cup holder there, and that's where I've also storing the key, which is in this little leather pouch. And then up above it we've got all your iDrive controls. So the iDrive, like in other models, you can control it by touching the screen. There's gesture control on offer should you wish it. There's also voice control, but you can also control it in the good old rotary dial. This is crystal glass, very nice indeed, with some touch sensitive buttons mounted on this piece of wood, which is very nice indeed. Another crystal glass for your volume knob there. This is the drive select switch, and then there's your start stop button there in sort of a 3D cut glass kind of way. It's difficult to actually see it, but it's there. Now let's talk about the steering wheel, because this steering wheel is definitely worth mentioning. It's hexagonal. It's times like this, I really do think the Austin Allegro was ahead of its time. A car which everybody poo-pooed the idea of having a square steering wheel, but here it's on offer. And much like the Allegro, that square kind of squared off edges means that you can see the dials a lot better. It also means easier to get in and out of, because the rim is a lot more squared off. New style of BMW steering wheel, really. We've got the cruise control here, and then your volume, and you can control the screen in front of you with those as well. Very, very simple. Moving over to the door, we've got more cut glass controls for the electric seats. These are in sort of like an amber gold colour, which is quite nice. And then we've got the Bowers & Wilkins stereo, this particular car. We've got the door release button there as well, and the emergency release under there, and big door bins as well. Last thing I want to mention is this roof. We've got a glass panoramic roof. There's no cover. You're just able to control how much light and brightness comes in by pressing this button up here. So we've just allowed a little bit more light to come in, which is quite nifty. And then in the centre we've got a big cubby. Because of course there's no transmission tunnel, it means that it is absolutely vast, very, very deep. So you can store all sorts of things that you need to. Right then, let's get this car out on the road. Right then, let's start this up and take it for a little test drive. Put it into drive. The first thing I do want to sort of mention is this car's supposed to have a claimed WLTP range of around 380 odd miles. Full charge here at, well, 98% battery. We've got 317 miles. Admittedly, I have been doing starting it up and to switch the screens on to show you all the features. We've got the climate control on, so that's a little bit less than you'd expect, but 317 miles to start off with is still great, isn't it? Right then, let's head out of this airport and take you out on some roads and see what this car is like. Now, for the time being, there are just two versions on offer, the 40 and the 50. There will be a high-performance M50 version with some help from BMW's M division in the tuning. But we've got the 50 here, so 516 brake horsepower. And that's courtesy of a 254 brake horsepower electric motor at the front, 309 at the back, giving you, well, over 500 brake horsepower. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? It really does amaze me the level of power they can get from these motors. I mean, it's only going to improve the amount of time that goes by. We're already seeing 1,000 brake horsepower electric hypercars, 500 brake horsepower from a family SUV. Incredible. Anyway, so the scores on the door are 4.6 seconds from 0 to 62 miles an hour. Let's see what this is like. We're going to accelerate up to a national speed limit road now, and good lord, that is fast. Weird sensation that, because the car really does fly towards the horizon, but you're not thrust back into your seat, whereas in a Tesla sort of Model Y, for example, or Model X, the car not only heads towards the horizon, but you're flung into the back of your seat. This is not like that, but it's got quite a refined, smooth quality to its acceleration. Now, the 50D xDrive that we've got here comes with air suspension as standard. We're in the comfort mode, and it's doing a really good job at giving a smooth ride. When you ratchet it up to sport, of course the ride does get a little bit firmer, but still the body control in sport is quite remarkable actually, because this car weighs over 2.5 tons, and yet BMW been able to tighten up the body control without affecting the ride too much. Now, as I so often say on this channel, just because you're driving an electric car doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be quiet, because when there's no engine up front, it amplifies all the other noises. And I have to say, BMW have done a good job at keeping it quiet in here. Yes, we have got enormous 22-inch wheels on this car, but they don't kick up too much noise, nor is there too much noise whistling around these wing mirrors either. It is very hushed and refined in here. Now, the only noise that I can hear is a whir. Now, BMW have introduced this sort of techie, whizzy kind of whir. It's a bit of background noise. It does sound a bit odd, but you do get used to it pretty quickly. And yet, that's the only thing you tend to hear. And if you're stepping out of a BMW X5, for example, you're going to think that's quite weird. It's probably going to freak you out a little bit, but you will quickly get used to it. Now, because it's got air suspension, you can lift the car up to go a little bit off-road, but let's face it, this isn't a car to be going off-road in. It is a car to be cruising around in. Actually, if you put the car into efficiency mode, which throttles everything back, obviously ekes out the car's range, it is such a comfortable car to drive. I think if you do drive this car around the city, plop it into efficiency mode as soon as possible, because it just glides around, and the pickup on the throttle is a lot smoother as well, and it delivers pretty much a BMW 7 Series level of quality, comfort and refinement. Now, there is a B mode to eke out the range a little bit more. The car also does some clever stuff by using sat-nav data, by looking ahead, for example. If there's a roundabout coming up, it'll know that, and it may add a bit of regenerative braking, so you can eke out the range a little bit more. It does all this clever stuff too, so you can get the most amount of range from this car, which is great. Now, one thing that does strike me is that you do sit up nice and high, which is great if you are a typical BMW SUV owner and you like to lord it over other motorists. The iX definitely does deliver that. But these are pretty thick pillars, but you do get a lot of glass in here, so it does feel very different from an X5. You feel as though you're more on show to other drivers. And what with this very low dashboard, it does feel very light and airy in here. That strange noise again. I mean, it does. I mean, I drive lots of electric cars, and it's interesting to hear what manufacturers do to sort of drown out what is effectively white noise. And BMW have gone for this weirdly techie, whirry noise, and I quite like it, actually.
What do I think then to one of BMW's most controversially styled cars ever? Well, get beyond the looks and you'll find a well-engineered and thought-out car. It doesn't have the poise of a BMW X5, but perhaps you wouldn't expect it to. What it does have is Mercedes S-Class levels of ride and refinement. The xDrive 50 does make the most sense because of its larger battery, but with it being £24,000 more expensive than the xDrive 40, it does mean you do have to have some deep pockets. Overall, while the iX does lack the involvement you'd get in a traditional petrol or diesel BMW SUV, it's just as fast and comfortable in the real world. Only a Jaguar I-Pace has the same blend of usability and on-road poise.